Your next car might not let you speed, not won't, can't. Right now, in driveways and dealership lots across this country, a new generation of vehicles is quietly rolling out with a piece of technology that can physically take control away from you the second you press too hard on that gas pedal. It's called intelligent speed assistance, and most drivers have no idea it's already here. Europe made it mandatory in every new car back in 2024. Virginia just built a program around it. Washington State is piloting it. Washington, D.C. is testing it. California has a bill on the table right now that would force new cars sold in the state to physically restrict how fast you can go. This is not a rumor. This is not a conspiracy theory from some forum. This is happening state by state, country by country, and almost nobody is talking about what it actually means for you, the driver, the buyer, the person who just wants to get in their car and go. Here's the part that should make you sit up. This isn't a warning light. This isn't a beep that annoys you for 2 seconds. Some versions of this technology use GPS and cameras to read the speed limit on the road you're driving, and then they physically resist your acceleration. Push the pedal down, and the car pushes back. In some configurations, it can cap your speed entirely, no matter how hard you press. Volvo already caps every single one of its vehicles at 112 miles an hour, no exceptions, no override. And regulators in Washington are openly discussing a national rollout by 2030. That gives the industry less than 4 years to fold this into nearly every new vehicle sold in America. If you think this only affects reckless drivers or people with bad records, think again. The technology being discussed isn't a punishment tool. It's becoming standard equipment. So why should you care if you're a safe driver who's never gotten a ticket in your life? Because once this technology becomes standard, it changes the entire relationship between you and the vehicle you paid for. The car you're financing for the next 6 years might come with a hidden ceiling on its performance that you never agreed to, never tested, and never fully understood until you're already locked into the loan. Dealers are not required to walk you through this in detail. Most of them won't even bring it up unless you ask. And by the time you find out your new SUV behaves differently than the one you test drove, you've already signed. This is the story most car buyers are about to walk into blind. The market is shifting under your feet, and the manufacturers, the regulators, and yes, the dealerships are moving faster than the information is reaching you. That's exactly why we're breaking this down piece by piece, because what's coming next changes how you should be shopping for a car in 2026, what questions you need to be asking before you sign anything, and why the car you think you're buying might not be the car you actually drive home. And here's the thing that makes this moment different from every other piece of safety tech that's been added to cars over the years. A backup camera doesn't change how your car drives. A lane departure warning just beeps at you. This is the first mainstream system that can reach in and physically alter how the vehicle responds to your own input. That's a line most drivers haven't even thought to ask about, because nothing like it has ever come standard before. Once that line gets crossed quietly, without a national conversation, without most buyers even knowing to ask, it becomes the new normal almost overnight. That's exactly how it played out in Europe. 1 year it's a recommendation. A few years later, it's bolted into every new vehicle on the lot. No public vote, no headline moment, just a regulation that took effect while most drivers were busy living their lives. Let's talk about what's actually at stake here, because this goes far beyond a top speed number on a window sticker. Picture this: you're merging onto a highway, traffic is moving fast, and you need a quick burst of acceleration to get out of a dangerous gap. If your vehicle's system is reading the wrong speed limit data or lagging behind real road conditions, that resistance against your pedal could be the difference between a clean merge and a collision. Supporters of this technology point to real numbers. A UK study linked intelligent speed assistance to a 37% drop in traffic deaths. New York City's pilot reported 99% compliance among equipped vehicles. Those are not small numbers, and we're not here to tell you safety doesn't matter. It absolutely does. But here's the question nobody in the industry wants to answer clearly. Who decides where that line gets drawn? And what happens to your control as a driver once that decision is made for you by software you can't see and can't override? This affects everyday families who finance a car because they need reliable transportation to get to work, to get their kids to school, to handle an emergency in the middle of the night. It affects anyone who's ever needed to pass a slow truck on a 2-lane road, Anyone who's had to react fast in a situation where milliseconds matter, and it affects your wallet too, because as this technology becomes standard, it becomes another line item buried inside the price of the vehicle, another system that needs calibration, another sensor that can fail, another repair that lands squarely on you once the warranty runs out. Most buyers never realize this until it's too late. They walk onto a lot, they fall in love with a vehicle, they focus on the monthly payment, the trim level, the color, the financing rate. Nobody is sitting them down and explaining that the car they're about to drive for the next 5 to 7 years is built around a fundamentally different relationship between driver and machine than the car they traded in. The dealership isn't going to slow down their sales pitch to walk you through speed governor technology. That's not their job, and frankly, it's not in their financial interest to spend extra time explaining something that might make you hesitate. But here's the part dealers never explain. This isn't an isolated feature sitting in one corner of one state. It's spreading. 10 or more states are actively considering speed limiter legislation right now, on top of the pilots already running. The European model that started as an advisory beep in 2022 has already evolved into automatic speed reduction in some configurations. What starts as a pilot program for reckless drivers in one state can quietly expand into a baseline requirement for every new vehicle sold there. That's the pattern we've seen with seatbelt laws, with backup cameras, with countless other pieces of mandated technology. It starts narrow, it ends standard, and once it's standard, you don't get a choice anymore. You just get the bill. Think about what that means if you're shopping across state lines, or if you move a year or two after buying. A car that behaves one way in the state you bought it could be required to behave completely differently the moment local regulations catch up to where Virginia and Washington already are. Resale value gets caught in that same uncertainty. Buyers 2 or 3 years from now may specifically search for vehicles without these restrictions, the same way some buyers today specifically avoid certain transmissions or certain infotainment systems. If that shift happens, the vehicles without speed governing become a shrinking category, and shrinking categories tend to hold value differently than the mainstream. Nobody at the dealership is pricing that uncertainty into your deal today, but you should be thinking about it before you sign a 6-year loan on a vehicle whose long-term value depends on regulations that haven't even been finalized yet. So let's break this down piece by piece, because the more specific you get, the more obvious the gap becomes between what the industry says and what drivers are actually experiencing. First, understand the difference between a basic speed limiter and full intelligent speed assistance. A basic limiter just caps your absolute top speed, the way Volvo's vehicles cap out at 112 miles an hour regardless of road conditions. That's a flat ceiling, simple and predictable. ISA is a completely different animal. It uses GPS mapping, sometimes paired with forward-facing cameras, to read posted speed limits in real time and adjust what the car will allow you to do based on the specific road you're on at that exact moment. That means your car's behavior can change block by block, depending on data that may or may not be accurate, current, or properly synced with the actual signage in front of you. That's not even the worst part buyers need to understand right now. These systems rely on digital map data. If that data is outdated, or if a road has been repaved with a new posted limit that hasn't been updated in the system yet, your car may restrict your speed based on information that is simply wrong. Imagine being on a highway where the limit was recently raised, but your vehicle still thinks it's the old, lower number, and it's actively fighting you to keep you under a speed limit that no longer exists. Now imagine that happening while you're trying to pass another vehicle safely. This is the kind of real-world friction that gets buried under press releases about crash reduction statistics. And this next part is where thousands of buyers are going to lose money without realizing it. As this technology rolls into more vehicles, expect to see it tied into insurance underwriting. Some insurers are already exploring how driving data, including how often a vehicle's speed assistance system intervenes, could be used to set your premiums. That means the car that's supposed to be protecting you could also become a tool that's quietly profiling you and feeding that profile straight into how much you pay every single month for coverage. Nobody is sitting buyers down at the dealership to explain that connection. It's happening in the background, built into systems most drivers will never read the fine print on. Here's another layer most people miss entirely: calibration and sensor repair costs. Once these systems become standard, any windshield replacement, any camera recalibration, any GPS module failure becomes a repair bill tied directly to a safety system, which often means it can't be patched with a cheap aftermarket part. Shops are already seeing this pattern with existing driver assistance technology. Add speed governing into that mix, and your repair costs after an accident, even a minor one, could climb significantly higher than what you're used to budgeting for. This is the hidden cost layer that almost never makes it into a salesperson's pitch. And it's exactly the kind of detail that separates an informed buyer from someone who gets blindsided 18 months down the road. There's also the question of who's actually accountable when the system gets it wrong. If a vehicle restricts your speed at the wrong moment based on faulty map data, and that contributes to an accident, who's responsible? Is it the automaker who built the software? The mapping company that supplied the data? The dealership that sold you the car without explaining how the system works? Right now, that liability picture is murky at best, and it's being worked out in real time, often after incidents happen rather than before. That's not meant to scare you away from safety technology. It's meant to show you exactly why asking detailed questions before you buy isn't paranoia. It's protecting yourself from a gap in accountability that the industry itself hasn't fully closed yet. So here's how you protect yourself, starting with your very next test drive. Before you even sit in the car, ask the salesperson directly, does this vehicle have any form of speed limiting or intelligent speed assistance technology? And if so, can it be adjusted, disabled, or overridden, and under what conditions? Watch how they answer. If they hesitate, if they deflect, if they try to change the subject back to financing or trim packages, that hesitation is information. Write down their answer, or better yet, get it in writing. A confident, transparent dealer will pull up the spec sheet and show you exactly what the system does. A dealer trying to move you towards signing fast will brush past the question entirely. Next, test the system in real conditions before you buy, not after. Take the car onto a highway on ramp, find a safe, legal stretch where you'd normally need a quick burst of acceleration, and feel exactly how the vehicle responds. Don't take the salesperson's word for it. Feel it yourself. If something feels off, if the resistance feels delayed, inconsistent, or aggressive, that's your signal to ask harder questions or walk away entirely. This is your decision, your money, and your safety on the line, not theirs. When it comes to financing, treat this technology the same way you'd treat any other major mechanical system. Ask what the warranty covers specifically for the speed assistance hardware and software. Ask how recalibration after a windshield replacement or accident is handled, and ask whether updates to mapping data are automatic or require a paid service visit. Get every answer in writing before you sign. If a finance manager tries to rush you past these questions to close the deal faster, that's exactly the moment to slow down, not speed up. Pressure to sign quickly is one of the oldest tactics in the business, and it works because most buyers don't want to feel difficult. You're not being difficult, you're being informed. And here's your psychological edge walking into any dealership in 2026. The salesperson's job is to keep the conversation moving toward a signature. Your job is to control the pace. Use phrases like, I'll need that documented before I move forward, or I'm comparing this against other models with the same technology, so I need specifics, not generalities. These phrases shift the power dynamic immediately because they signal you're not an easy close, you're a buyer who does the homework most people skip. One more thing before you walk onto any lot, check your specific state's current stance on speed limiter legislation before you go car shopping, not after. A quick search for your state name alongside intelligent speed assistance or speed limiter bill will tell you whether you're buying into a pilot zone, a state that's actively debating new rules, or a state that hasn't touched the issue yet. That single piece of homework changes how hard you push on these questions at the dealership, and it tells you how much this technology might matter for your resale value down the road. Buyers who walk in with that information already in their back pocket negotiate from a completely different position than buyers who are hearing about any of this for the first time under fluorescent showroom lights. This channel exists for exactly this reason, to make sure you're never the person finding out the hard way, 18 months into a loan, that your car wasn't what you thought it was. If this opened your eyes even a little, drop a comment and tell us what state you're in, because this rollout is happening differently depending on where you live, and your experience could help someone else avoid a costly mistake. Subscribe if you want to stay ahead of every hidden shift in this market before it hits your driveway. Share this with anyone you know who's car shopping right now, because the more of us who walk into that dealership informed, the harder it gets for anyone to take advantage of a buyer who didn't know better. Stay sharp, stay informed, and we'll see you in the next one.